Welcome to the sleep hours, the only place where cartoons fall asleep before you do. So grab your blanket, tuck in your favorite plushie, and let's get weird. In tonight's sleep menu, we have We Bear Bears. On a night when sleep seemed just out of reach, the three bears of the forest find themselves on a gentle journey through mysterious dreamlands. Together, they discover that sometimes the sweetest rest comes not from quiet alone, but from friendship, courage, and a little bit of magic. It was a quiet night in the cave. A soft breeze flowed through the little crack in the window near Panda's side of the bed, fluttering the corner of a movie poster on the wall. Outside, the moon was doing its thing, glowing, gentle, very much on schedule. Everything was perfect for a peaceful night's sleep. Everything, except for one tiny problem. None of the bears could sleep. Grizz tossed and turned on the top bunk, flipping his pillow once, twice, then aggressively fluffing it like it had personally wronged him. "Okay," he muttered to himself, staring at the ceiling. "Let's try the old big yawn trick." He inhaled deeply and let out the loudest, most theatrical yawn the bear world had ever seen. It echoed off the walls. "Seriously, Grizz?" Panda groaned from the bottom bunk, rubbing his face. "You're trying to force yawn yourself to sleep again?" "It works for some people," Grizz huffed. "Besides, it's better than just laying here thinking about—" He paused, then sat up dramatically. "Wait, do you guys hear that?" Ice Bear, lying silently on his futon across the cave, blinked once. "Ice Bear hears your voice." Grizz waved it off. No, not me. That sound like ticking, but slow, like a sleepy time bomb." The cave fell silent. Panda sat up too, ears twitching. Then he shook his head. "And possibly too many nachos." "Nachos are not the villain here," Grizz declared proudly. "They never were." Ice Bear adjusted his pillow, speaking in a perfectly calm tone. "Ice Bear cannot sleep either." Panda sighed and flopped back down on his bed. "Is this like a bear-wide thing? Why can't we sleep tonight?" Grizz slid down the bunk ladder like a slightly heavier firefighter. "Maybe it's something in the air, or a full moon thing, or, maybe we accidentally angered a ghost." "A ghost?" Panda whispered, eyes suddenly wide. Grizz put a dramatic paw to his chest. "We did move that old bookshelf last week. What if it was cursed?" Ice Bear rolled to his side. "Ice Bear does not fear cursed furniture." Grizz started pacing the cave in small circles, clearly overthinking everything now. Okay. Think. What do people do when they can't sleep? Panda, you're our sensitive one. Do you, meditate or something? Panda sat up and grabbed his phone. "I usually watch those 10-hour looped whale song videos." Grizz blinked. "Whale songs? Is that relaxing?" Panda raised an eyebrow. "Have you ever heard a whale hum in B minor? It's surprisingly peaceful." Ice Bear sat up too. Ice Bear prefers silence, or extremely slow techno. "Okay," Grizz said, throwing his paws in the air. "This is exactly the problem. We're doing all these things that should work, but they're not working. I mean, I'm tired. I know I'm tired, but my brain is just like—" He waved his paws frantically. "Nope." There was a moment of quiet where all three bears looked at each other and silently agreed. This was weird. "Okay," Grizz said. "New plan. We need to treat this like a mystery. A nighttime mystery. A sleuth-style, pajama-wearing, maybe solve it before midnight kind of mission." Panda sighed, but got up anyway. "Do we really need flashlights? We live in a cave. We know the floor plan." "I'm setting the vibe, Pan, Grizz said, already rooting around for his detective hat, which was actually just an upside-down cereal bowl. Outside, the forest was bathed in a dreamy silver glow. The trees swayed gently. It was the kind of night you'd normally drift off in. But tonight the bears were wide awake, and maybe, just maybe, something else was too. Grizz, now wearing his cereal bowl detective hat with the confidence of someone who absolutely believed in his own logic, stood near the cave door. "All right, squad. First objective, figure out if something in the house is stopping us from sleeping." Panda rubbed his eyes. "Can't the first objective be try not to fall asleep standing?" Grizz shook his head dramatically. Pan, if we fall asleep now, we'll never solve this. We'll just wake up in the morning confused and possibly tangled in the couch blanket again." Ice Bear calmly zipped up his fuzzy hoodie. "Ice Bear is ready for a low-light operation." They each grabbed a flashlight, 2 actual ones, 1 repurposed glow stick from Panda's drawer, and started a slow, groggy inspection of the cave. Grizz crept over to the mini-fridge first, dramatically pulling it open like it might reveal something spooky. "Suspicious leftover burrito," he muttered. "Smells slightly haunted." "That's mine," Panda grumbled. "Don't haunt-shame my lunch." Next stop, the hallway nook where Ice Bear kept his bonsai plants. Grizz shined the flashlight across them, squinting. "These tiny trees always look too peaceful. They know something." "Don't interrogate the plants," Panda whispered, already half regretting leaving bed. Grizz moved on, shining his flashlight under the couch. Panda peeked over his shoulder. "See anything?" "Dust bunny," Grizz whispered, eyes wide. "Big one. Looks like it's been doing cardio." Ice Bear appeared silently behind them. Ice Bear found nothing unusual in the pantry, except jelly packets. Hundreds. Grizz sat back on the floor, flashlight beam flickering. "Okay, maybe it's not the cave. Maybe it's us." "You mean like we're broken?" Panda blinked. "Like emotionally?" "No," Grizz waved his paws. "Like maybe we did something earlier today that threw off our night vibes. You know, like drinking too much soda or... Wait, what did we do today?" They all stood there for a moment, thinking. Ice Bear tilted his head. "Woke up late. Played whack-a-melon at the arcade. Had nachos. Watched 4 movies." "Yeah," Grizz nodded. "That was a good day. Maybe too good," Panda said slowly. "Like maybe our brains are still hyped up." "Overstimulated," Grizz agreed. "We're basically happiness overload." There was a pause. "So now what?" Panda asked, voice quieter. "What do you do when the day was too fun to come down from?" Grizz looked thoughtful. "We find a way to cool the brain fog. Something calm, gentle. Like a midnight walk." Panda groaned. "You mean leave the cave? I'm not even wearing real pants." Ice Bear was already sliding open the door. "Come on," Grizz said, nudging him with a grin. "Let's just walk around the forest a bit. See the stars. Let nature remind us it's okay to chill." And so, like a very sleepy parade of pajamas and confused logic, the 3 bears stepped out into the quiet night. The woods were peaceful. Just enough breeze to ruffle the leaves, just enough moonlight to see the trail without stumbling too much. Panda shivered slightly and pulled his hoodie tight. "It's better not wake up any raccoons," he mumbled. "Ice Bear is on raccoon watch." They walked in silence for a few minutes, listening to the faint creak of tree limbs and distant frog sounds. The moonlight cast long, soft shadows across the dirt path. Grizz turned off his flashlight and just looked up. "You ever think about how big the sky is?" he asked, his voice lower now, calmer. "Like really big." Panda, too sleepy to be snarky, just mumbled, "Yeah, it's like a blanket, but too high up to snuggle." Grizz chuckled. "Exactly." They reached a little clearing near the big mossy rock. It had always been their spot for roasting marshmallows and watching the stars. Tonight it felt quieter, slower, as if the world was finally ready for them to rest. Grizz flopped down onto the grass and sighed. "Okay, maybe now the sleep will come." Panda lay beside him, blinking slowly. Ice Bear sat cross-legged, calm as ever. They waited. Waited? Nothing. Still wide awake. Grizz groaned. "Okay, maybe nature isn't the answer either." "Ugh," Panda whispered. "I miss sleep." I used to take it for granted. Ice Bear is beginning to worry. This might be an ancient bear curse. Grizz sat up. No way. I'm not letting a full night of sleep slip away. We're going to solve this. The stars twinkled above them, still very large, still very sleepy-looking. And somewhere in the distance, a faint sound, a low, rhythmic thumping. The bears all turned their heads slowly. You guys hear that? Grizz whispered. Grizz squinted into the trees. Okay. That sound? That's not just forest ambience. That's rhythmic. Like boom, pause, boom, boom. Panda sat up, blinking sleepily. Maybe it's a squirrel doing push-ups? Ice Bear detects pattern, possibly footsteps. Grizz stood slowly, his cereal bowl hat sliding a little off-center. Let's check it out. A very stealth mode, okay? No sudden movements, no loud bear noises. The three of them tiptoed forward like a stack of walking marshmallows in the night. The forest was darker here, less moonlight, more tree cover. Grizz's flashlight flickered once, then gave up entirely. Panda's glow stick was now just a slightly green stick. They were moving by instinct, and the occasional trip over roots. The thumping grew a little louder, still slow, still oddly chill. Then they saw it. At the edge of a clearing stood a shadowy figure, not too tall, not too small. Wait, a bear? But not one of them. Grizz leaned closer. The figure turned slightly and began to dance. It was, without question, breakdancing. Oh my gosh, Panda whispered. It's a sleep-dancing bear. Ice Bear tilted his head. Or very tired squirrel in costume. Grizz was mesmerized. The mystery bear popped, locked, spun on one paw, and then stood up with a dramatic final pose that ended in a surprisingly elegant bow. The three brothers applauded softly. Couldn't help it. Bravo, Ghost Bear, Grizz whispered. The figure turned toward them, finally stepping into the moonlight. It was not a ghost, nor a squirrel. It was Barry, the bear from down the ridge. A chill, artsy bear they'd met once during a tofu hot pot fundraiser. Barry wore glow-in-the-dark headphones and a scarf, even in summer. Sup? Barry said, pulling off his headphones. Didn't know anyone else did the Midnight Forest groove. Grizz blinked. You're out here dancing? At midnight? Barry nodded, completely unbothered. Helps me unwind. You know, decompress. All that modern bear anxiety and stuff. Panda looked baffled. But how do you sleep afterward? Oh, Barry smiled. You don't. You vibe until you collapse. The three brothers exchanged very tired looks. Okay, Grizz said. New plan. No collapsing. But maybe vibing will help. And so, for the next 10 minutes, the forest clearing became the chillest, lowest energy dance floor in bear history. Grizz freestyle, sort of. Panda did some oddly graceful, sleepy twirls, and Ice Bear, of course, mastered a flawless moonwalk with zero emotion. They were all panting afterward. Barry patted Grizz on the back. You got tired energy. I respect that. Thanks, Barry, Grizz wheezed. But we're on a sleep mission, and dancing's just making me, less tired. Barry pulled a tiny thermos from his scarf pocket. Herbal tea. Panda reached for it immediately. Wait, Grizz said, sniffing. Is that lavender and honey? Barry nodded. This bear, Grizz whispered to Panda, might be our sleep guru. They all sat down again, sipping slowly. The tea was warm, soothing, just sweet enough to calm the mind. A breeze passed through. The forest hushed again. For a moment, just a moment, Grizz felt his eyelids flutter. And then, snap, a branch broke in the distance. Everyone froze. Grizz stood up slowly. Okay, that wasn't part of the rhythm. Panda shivered. It's happening again, isn't it? Ice Bear stood alert. Something else is awake. The four bears stood still, their teacups halfway to their mouths, as the soft crack of another branch echoed through the woods. It was quiet. Too quiet. Even the usual chorus of cricket lullabies had paused. Grizz tilted his head, scanning the trees. That definitely wasn't a squirrel. Panda gulped, clutching his hoodie strings. Grizz, what if it's the ghost of a bear who never found a bedtime routine? Barry calmly sipped his tea. Or like an owl with poor balance. Ice Bear is preparing for all outcomes, said Ice Bear, already tightening his scarf ninja style. Another sound. This time closer a rustle, then a faint jingle. Wait, jingle? Grizz whispered. They slowly crept toward the noise. Flashlight beams danced between tree trunks, catching shadows that moved just out of reach. Panda stuck close behind Grizz, one paw gripping the back of his hoodie like a nervous child at a haunted hayride. Then just ahead, something flickered in the moonlight, soft and round. Something with ears? Grizz blinked. Is that... He took a cautious step forward. Panda peeked from behind. Ice Bear scanned the treetops. Barry sipped his tea unbothered. And there it was, sitting in a patch of soft grass, facing away from them. A giant stuffed teddy bear, wearing a knit cap, with a tiny bell around its neck. Grizz froze. Okay, I know I'm tired, but that's either a huge toy or the most immobile bear I've ever seen. Panda whispered. Is it haunted? Like possessed by insomnia? Ice Bear moved forward, crouching low. Ice Bear will investigate. He poked it gently. No response. Grizz joined him and turned the bear around slowly. Its button eyes stared blankly ahead. A note was pinned to its chest, written in neat block letters. If found, please return to Sleepy Hollow Campsite Site 7. Grizz read it out loud, blinking. Are we delivering stuffed animals now? Barry adjusted his headphones. Sleepy Hollow's like 2 hills over. Real peaceful vibes. Kids camp there. Panda rubbed his face. Wait. Are we saying a teddy bear wandered into our forest, and we found it during our sleepless mystery mission? Grizz beamed. This is fate, you guys. It's our sleepy side quest. Panda sighed. It's literally a bear delivering a bear. Ice Bear was already carefully carrying the plushie in his arms like a bodyguard. Well, we did say this night couldn't get weirder, Grizz said, leading the way. With Barry waving them off and offering one final thermos refill, the 3 brothers headed through the moonlit woods toward the Sleepy Hollow campsite. The air grew softer with every step. The trees thinned out, revealing a wide clearing of neatly placed tents and low lanterns glowing golden like fireflies. At Site 7, a group of kids sat in a semicircle around a campfire, their counselor reading from a picture book. A few of the little ones looked sleepy, others fidgeted restlessly. One small girl sat quietly apart, hugging her knees. Her eyes lit up as she spotted the bear in Ice Bear's arms. "Tibbles!" she gasped, running toward them. Ice Bear gently knelt and handed the teddy over. The girl hugged it tightly, burying her face in its soft fur. Grizz cleared his throat. Delivery complete? The counselor approached, blinking. Wait, where did you guys come from? Panda gave a half smile. We're forest residents of the non-creepy variety. The counselor looked baffled but grateful. She's been looking for that bear all day. No wonder she couldn't fall asleep. Grizz looked at his brothers and slowly smiled. Wait a second, she couldn't sleep. And now we brought back her bear. Panda blinked. Don't say it. Grizz beamed. What if that was the source of all the restlessness? Like we felt her no-sleep energy bouncing around the forest. The Tibbles vortex. Ice Bear nodded slowly. Sleep energy restored. The little girl waved. Thank you, forest bears. They waved back and quietly turned to head home. As they made their way back to their cave, the air felt different. Still soft, a little heavier, with drowsy calm. Grizz yawned, genuinely this time. "It's working," he said, swaying a little as they walked. Panda rubbed his eyes. That tea's kicking in. Or the emotional closure. Ice Bear said nothing, but the way his steps slowed made it clear. His inner ninja was ready for a nap. They reached the cave and stepped inside. The moonlight spilled through the window again, only now it felt like a gentle hand brushing over their pillows. Grizz collapsed onto the top bunk without even adjusting his cereal bowl hat. "We solved it, bruz. We helped the kid. We found Tibbles. We earned the sleep." Panda was already in bed, his phone abandoned on the nightstand. Ice Bear pulled his blanket to his chin and whispered, "Ice Bear, sleepy." The cave grew still, peaceful. Finally, sleep wrapped around them like a thick, cozy blanket. And just before drifting off, Grizz mumbled into his pillow, "Best mystery night ever." The sun peeked through the window with an almost smug glow, as if it knew the bears had finally gotten their rest. Inside the cave, a hush hung over everything. The floor was clean, thanks to Ice Bear, who somehow sleep tidies. Panda's phone had stopped auto-playing whale music, and Grizz was drooling into his pillow in a state of complete, bear-shaped peace. The night's chaos had given way to silence. Too much silence. Grizz blinked awake first, slowly opening one eye, then the other, like someone checking if it was still Sunday. He stretched, yawned, and didn't even feel the need to make it dramatic this time. "Whoa," he mumbled. "That was like, the deepest sleep ever." Panda stirred on the bottom bunk, blanket wrapped around him like a burrito. "Did we, oversleep?" Ice Bear slid open the curtain and peeked outside. "It is 2:07 p.m. Panda shot upright. "2? In the afternoon?" Grizz sat up so fast he bonked his head on the ceiling. "We slept for 14 hours? "Correction," Ice Bear added, checking his smartwatch. 15 hours and 6 minutes. There was a pause. Grizz blinked. "We never done that before." Panda nodded. "Usually one of us gets up to pee, trip over something, then wake the others." They all sat there in silence for a moment, realizing just how rested they felt. And just how weird that was. Grizz scratched his chin. "Okay, not that I'm complaining, but doesn't this feel too good? Like suspiciously good?" Panda frowned. "You think we were, like, hypnotized into a sleep coma?" Ice Bear blinked. "Ice Bear suspects foul bedtime magic." "Right?" Grizz said, jumping to his feet. "First we can't sleep at all. Then we solve a teddy bear mystery. Drink one cup of tea and suddenly we're hibernating in July." "Maybe Barry put something in the tea," Panda whispered dramatically. "Maybe he wanted us out cold. Maybe this whole thing was an elaborate sleep trap." Ice Bear reached under his bed and pulled out the thermos. Sniff. Sip. Pause. Ice Bear detects chamomile and lavender. No poison. Possibly mint. Panda slowly exhaled. Okay. No trap. Just vibes. But something still didn't feel right. Grizz paced the cave, eyes scanning every corner like a detective in fuzzy slippers. "Okay, question? What happened while we were sleeping? Did anyone hear anything? Dream anything weird?" "I dreamt about spaghetti," Panda said helpfully. Ice Bear dreamt of fighting raccoons in a quiet meadow. Grizz froze near the door. He sniffed, tilted his head, sniffed again. "Do you guys smell smoke?" Ice Bear immediately grabbed a mini fire extinguisher. Affirmative. They ran to the front door. Grizz opened it and blinked in confusion. There was no fire. Just a faint trail of grayish smoke drifting down the path toward the woods. It was thin, curling like steam off a forgotten campfire. And along with it came a smell that was weirdly familiar. "Is that burnt toast?" Panda asked. Ice Bear narrowed his eyes. No campfires scheduled today. Grizz stood tall. Well then, brothers, you know what this means. Panda sighed. Another mystery? Grizz pointed dramatically into the forest. Another mystery. Grizz led the way like an overly confident tour guide who didn't actually know where the path ended. The trail of smoke twisted and floated just ahead of them, weaving between trees like it was inviting them along for a mysterious adventure. Eyes sharp, noses sharper, Grizz said, sniffing dramatically. We're tracking burnt toast, gentlemen. Panda followed behind, still wrapped in his blanket like a walking cinnamon roll. I don't even like toast. Toast is like bread that got tired of being soft. Ice Bear prefers waffles, Ice Bear muttered, eyes scanning the underbrush. The smoke grew denser, curling lazily through the morning air. It wasn't thick enough to choke on, but it was just strong enough to wrinkle noses. More than that, though, it smelled oddly sweet. Burnt marshmallows? Grizz offered. Burnt donuts? Burnt hopes, Panda said dramatically. They rounded a bend in the trail and stopped. There, in the middle of a mossy clearing, sat a small table made entirely of stacked milk crates. On top of the table, a silver toaster, completely unplugged, yet still producing a steady stream of smoke. Grizz approached slowly. Okay, that's not normal. Ice Bear detects zero power source, said Ice Bear, kneeling beside it. Panda tilted his head. It's literally toasting. Nothing. They all stared. The toaster dinged. A charred piece of bread launched into the air, flipping once, then landing with a crisp flop on the moss. Grizz picked it up with a paw. Yep, that's a toast ghost if I've ever seen one. Toast ghost? Panda asked. Like a ghost that haunts small kitchen appliances. Ice Bear is skeptical. Grizz squatted down next to the toaster. Okay, clearly this is part 2 of the mystery. We solved the sleepless night, and the next day the forest hands us a spooky self-toasting toaster in the middle of the woods. I still think this has Barry written all over it, Panda muttered. Just then a rustle came from behind a nearby bush. The brothers all turned, alert, and from the brush emerged Tabes. Ranger Tabes stepped into the clearing, looking just as wide-eyed and mildly frazzled as always. Her hat was slightly crooked, her boots were muddy, and her backpack looked like it had been through 3 levels of camping chaos. Oh, good, she said, spotting the bears. I was hoping you 3 were awake. Have you seen... She stopped mid-sentence as her eyes landed on the toaster. Ah, so this is where it ended up. Grizz blinked. Wait, you know about the rogue toaster? It wandered off last night. Wandered? Panda asked. As in, it walked? No, Tabes said with complete seriousness. I strapped it to a raccoon to carry it to the ranger station. The raccoon got distracted. The bears stared at her. Ice Bear respects the raccoon, Ice Bear said quietly. Tabes sighed and walked over to the smoking toaster, giving it a solid pat like it was an old buddy. This thing's been acting up for weeks. I think someone rigged it with an auto-toast cycle that never ends. Every 15 minutes it toasts air. But why bring it into the woods? Grizz asked. I didn't, she huffed. I tried getting rid of it. But every time I leave it behind, it comes back. Panda took a step back. Okay. Now it does sound haunted. Or lonely, Grizz added. Poor little toaster ghost. Ice Bear gave it a side glance. Ice Bear recommends exile. Tabes crossed her arms. Well, I was going to bury it under the old compost site. But now that you've found it, maybe you want to babysit it for a bit. Grizz's eyes lit up. Yes. Sleepover toaster mission accepted. Panda groaned. We just got sleep back, Grizz. Ice Bear fears the toaster's cursed cycle will disrupt REM phase. Tabes shrugged. It's either your cave or the lake. The toaster gave a faint pop, ejecting another slice of imaginary bread. The bears all looked at one another. Grizz, excited. Panda, horrified. Ice Bear, calculating risk. "All right," Grizz said, scooping it up like a trophy. "Let's bring it home." Grizz cradled the toaster like it was a newborn cub. "I shall name you Toasty." Panda sighed loudly. "We're really doing this?" "Toasty has potential," Grizz insisted. "What if he's a misunderstood little kitchen soul just trying to find his place in the world?" "Toasty just smoked out half the forest," Panda pointed out. "Ice Bear is monitoring for flare-ups." They reached the cave, and Grizz immediately cleared a spot on the kitchen counter. "Here we go, buddy. A cozy new home, warm lighting, access to plugs, strong community vibes." The toaster didn't respond, of course, but its shiny surface reflected a faint smudge that looked suspiciously like a smile, or maybe a very smudgy slice of banana. Grizz plugged it in. It whirred once, then nothing. "Maybe it's shy," he whispered. "Maybe it's broken," Panda offered, already scrolling on his phone. "I found a whole Reddit thread on haunted appliances. One guy says his blender laughed at him." Grizz leaned down. "Toasty, are you haunted?" A soft pop. "No toast, no flames, just warmth." Panda groaned. "We're going to smell like breakfast forever." "Ice Bear detects comforting energy," said Ice Bear, who had pulled up a stool next to the toaster and was gently observing it like a scientist waiting for a panda to sneeze. "See?" Grizz grinned. "Maybe that weird energy from last night wasn't about ghosts or curses. Maybe it was Toasty calling out to us. Bear to toaster, soul to slot." Panda muttered, "That's not how soul slots work." They went about their day, though none of them could help glancing at the toaster every so often. It just sat there, quietly existing. Occasionally it would click, once it beeped. But mostly, it just radiated this oddly calming energy. Cozy, even. Grizz eventually sat back on the couch. "Okay, I'll admit, I feel nice. Like warm socks on a cloud, kind of nice." Panda narrowed his eyes at the toaster. "You're saying this toaster is soothing?" "I'm saying," Grizz said slowly, "that Toasty might be some kind of relaxation relic, like a nap artifact." Ice Bear nodded. "Ice Bear feels calmer since arrival." Panda folded his arms. "Nope. No, I'm not falling for this toaster cult energy. We're not becoming the kind of cave that worships kitchen gadgets." Grizz leaned his head back dramatically. "You're just jealous Toasty doesn't toast for you." "I don't want toast." Ding. They all jumped. The toaster had gone off again. This time, a single piece of perfectly golden bread popped out. Grizz blinked. "Okay. That wasn't even in there before." Panda slowly stepped back. "You saw that too, right? I didn't imagine it." Ice Bear inspected the toast. "Warm, slightly sweet, hint of cinnamon." "That's ghost toast," Panda whispered. "We're eating ghost toast now." Grizz, unfazed, took a bite. "Tastes like comfort." Panda threw up his arms. "Okay, that's it. You guys have officially been toast brain. This thing is doing something to you." Grizz offered him a bite. "You sure? It's kind of magical." Panda hesitated, then grabbed the toast. Sniff, nibble, chew, long pause. "Okay. Okay, fine," he muttered. "That's the best toast I've ever had." Grizz leaned back smugly. "Told you. Toasty's the vibe master." The bears relaxed into the afternoon, each strangely mellow, like their thoughts had been replaced with soft jazz and bear-sized blankets. No stress, no noise. Just toasty peace. Outside, the forest shifted gently in the breeze. Inside, 3 well-rested bears sat in complete contentment beside a softly humming toaster. And no one noticed the faint flicker of light behind its slot. A flicker that blinked. Like an eye. The flicker inside the toaster faded just as Ice Bear looked over. He squinted. Nothing, just chrome, coils in a faint glow of reheated air. Still, something about it made his fur tingle. "Ice bear, watching you," he murmured softly, tapping the side of the toaster. Toasty said nothing. Over the next few hours, the cave felt like a spa without the cucumbers. Grizz lay upside down on the couch, humming lullabies he'd made up on the spot. Panda snuggled into a nest of pillows and doom-scrolled relaxing photos of baby hedgehogs. Ice Bear, unusually motionless, sipped peppermint tea and stared at the toaster like it owed him money. And through it all, Toasty sat there, quiet, toasting nothing, until it wasn't quiet. At exactly 5:55 p.m., it dinged again, and again at 6:10. Then 6:25. Each time, without being touched or loaded, it popped out a perfect slice of toast. Grizz, watching it like a fan at a sporting event, leaned forward. "That's 3 pieces in 45 minutes. Is it feeding us on a schedule?" Panda's eyes narrowed. "That's not normal toaster behavior. No toaster just auto-schedules carb offerings." Ice Bear detects pattern. Grizz picked up the third toast. "This one smells sleepy." "Smells don't get sleepy." He sniffed again. "No, seriously. It smells like cozy bedtime, like chamomile met a fireplace and had a toasty baby." Panda was half asleep, just hearing that. Okay, but what if the toast is what made us sleep for 15 hours, like it's got some kind of relaxing bread chemical?" "Bredical," Grizz added. "That's not a thing. Is now." The toaster dinged again. Ice Bear caught the toast midair, examined it. "Toast is warm, no visible drugging. Texture soft, butter spread perfectly." Panda rubbed his face. "I mean, that is impressive." Grizz turned to the toaster. "Toasty, buddy, what are you really doing here?" Whir. The cave lights dimmed for just a second. The bears blinked. "Did the power flicker?" Panda asked, now wide awake. Ice Bear confirms voltage shift. Grizz stepped forward. "Okay, Toasty, spill your crumbs. Are you magical, haunted, or just incredibly passionate about breakfast?" Another ding. This time the toast was shaped like a heart. They all stared. Grizz gasped. "Toasty is emotionally sentient, or mocking us with carb-based art," Panda offered. Ice Bear pulled up a chair, sat squarely in front of the toaster, and folded his arms. "Ice Bear requires answers." Toasty remained still, innocent. Too innocent. Grizz crouched beside it. "Okay, let's think this through. We didn't sleep for a whole night. Then we solved a teddy bear mystery. Then Barry gave us calming tea. Then this toaster appeared, and now we're getting sleepy again." "Right," Panda said, blinking slowly. "It's like this thing isn't just calming us down. It's hacking our sleep cycles." Ice Bear nodded once. "Sleep manipulation detected." "To what end?" Grizz asked. "Why make us sleep?" "Maybe it wants to lull us into a permanent nap," Panda said darkly. "And when we're unconscious, it'll toast the world." "Okay, whoa," Grizz said. "That escalated fast." "Or it just wants to be loved," Panda added. "Honestly, same." The bears sat in front of the toaster for a long time, watching it, waiting for the next ding, but it didn't come. Instead, it began to hum, a soft, low-frequency purr, like a kitten dreaming about warm butter. And suddenly all 3 bears yawned at the exact same time. "Okay, that's weird," Panda said, rubbing his eye. "We're not even tired." Grizz nodded slowly. "But now I'm thinking about pillows and soup and socks." "Ice Bear feels heavy," Ice Bear admitted, blinking slower than usual. The toaster glowed a little. Just a faint, steady pulse, almost like it was breathing. Grizz stood up. Okay. This might actually be a problem. This toast is trying to soothe us into hibernation." Panda stood too, swaying. "Grizz, I swear, If this thing makes me miss my next live stream... And then, ding, they all blinked. No toast this time. Just a whiff of honey-scented air and the sound of ocean waves. From somewhere... Panda looked around. Did anyone hear that? Grizz was already walking toward his bed. I just want to lay down for a second. No, Panda grabbed his paw. Don't give in. That's what it wants. Ice Bear recommends containment protocol. Ice Bear, Panda said urgently. Go get a box. Ice Bear already got box. He returned holding a metal container, clearly prepared for toaster lockdown. Grizz tried to resist the pull of sleep. Okay. We just put it in the box, lock it up, figure it out later. Ice Bear has lid. They moved together, sluggish but determined. The toaster dinged again, this time with a chime like a lullaby. They froze. But then, with one fast scoop, Ice Bear tossed it in the box, slammed the lid shut, sat on top of it. Silence. No hum. No toast. Just the sound of three bears panning like they'd wrestled a marshmallow storm. Grizz slumped to the floor. That, was oddly exhausting. Panda nodded. I don't think it's evil, but it was definitely, up to something. Ice Bear will monitor. And so, with the toaster locked up and placed on top of the fridge under heavy guard, the bears finally breathed a sigh of relief. They had their cozy cave. They had their sleep back. For now. But deep inside the box, the toaster gave one final click. Like it was waiting. The cave was unusually quiet after the toaster's lockdown. Ice Bear sat guard atop the box, his expression unreadable, but eyes sharp. Grizz and Panda lounged nearby, still rubbing the last bits of sleep from their eyes. Grizz let out a big stretch. Well, we did it, brus. Toasty's out of commission. Sleep mission is back on track. Panda yawned and grabbed a snack from the cupboard. I just hope this doesn't mean no more toast forever. Ice Bear tilted his head. Ice Bear prefers peace over toast. Grizz laughed. That's Ice Bear for you. Always choosing calm over carbs. They settled down for the afternoon, the cave bathed in warm light, and the scent of pine from the small fireplace. The usual hum of forest life seeped in through the open window, birds chirping, leaves rustling, a distant waterfall. As the hours passed, a strange sensation began creeping over them. It started as a gentle tug at the edges of their minds, like a whispered invitation. Grizz was the first to feel it. He blinked suddenly and shook his head. Whoa, did you guys just hear that? Hear what? Panda asked, crunching on a granola bar. Like music, but not from the radio. Ice Bear narrowed his eyes. Ice Bear hears faint melodies, unnatural, possibly from dreams. Grizz stood and walked to the window, peering into the growing twilight. It's like the forest is singing, or calling. Panda nodded slowly, setting his snack aside. Maybe it's not just Toasty who's trying to help us sleep. Maybe the whole forest's got our backs. Ice Bear remained silent, but the way his shoulders relaxed suggested he was thinking the same. That night, as the cave dimmed into shadows and stars blinked awake, the bears gathered for one last ritual, a bedtime snack and story, just like old times. Grizz pulled out a small box of honeycomb snacks. Perfect for sweet dreams. Panda smiled. And I brought marshmallows because, marshmallows. Ice Bear produced a book, the cover worn but beloved. Ice Bear has story. They circled up, sharing the snacks and letting the calm melody float through the air, a lullaby woven by the forest itself. Grizz started the story, his voice low and steady. Once in a forest much like ours lived three bears who couldn't sleep. They searched for peace in every shadow and light. Panda added, they found friendship in the strangest places and magic in the smallest moments. Ice Bear closed the book gently. And in the end, sleep came. Not not from mystery, but from heart. As the story ended, the bears felt a deep calm settling over them. Their eyes grew heavy, the night wrapping them like a soft blanket. Just before drifting off, Grizz whispered, "Thanks, Toasty. And thanks, Forest." Panda sighed happily. "Best weird sleep night ever." Ice Bear was already asleep, a faint smile on his lips. Outside, the stars twinkled, and the forest hummed its timeless lullaby. The night deepened, folding the forest in quiet shadows. Inside the cave, the bears' breathing slowed, their minds drifting gently between wakefulness and dreams. But just as the comforting silence seemed complete, a soft creak echoed from the corner where the toaster box sat. Grizz's eyes fluttered open first. He glanced at Panda, who was curled up, and then at Ice Bear, whose calm expression didn't change. The soft creaking continued, almost like a sigh. Grizz quietly got up and tiptoed over. "Guys, you hear that?" Panda stirred, rubbing his eyes. "Hear what? The forest lullaby?" "No," Grizz whispered. "Closer, from Toasty." Ice Bear opened one eye, nodded. "Ice Bear alert." Together they approached the box. Grizz carefully lifted the lid. Inside, the toaster was still. No smoke, no dings, just a faint warm glow from inside. Grizz touched the toaster's side. Still warm. Suddenly a tiny puff of steam hissed out, followed by a soft ding, gentle, almost shy. Panda laughed quietly. "Looks like Toasty's not done with us yet." Ice Bear nodded. Ice Bear predicts midnight toast. Grizz smiled. "Midnight toast? Sounds like the perfect bedtime snack." They decided to leave the box open, just a crack, letting Toasty breathe. The soft glow bathed the cave in a warm, comforting light. As the hours passed, the bears drifted into dreams. But their dreams were not ordinary. They were filled with glowing forests, dancing fireflies, and the gentle rhythm of the toaster's hum. In these dreams, the bears found themselves wandering through the very woods outside, but everything was brighter, softer, and filled with a sense of peace. Grizz dreamt he was floating on a cloud made of honey, with bees humming lullabies around him. Panda found himself in a cozy library where books whispered bedtime stories. Ice Bear dreamed of snowflakes that sparkled like stars, falling softly onto a silent forest floor. When morning came, the bears awoke refreshed, but with a shared feeling that their dreams had been a gift from something beyond the ordinary. Grizz stretched. "Okay, so Toasty might actually be a magical nap machine." Panda grinned. "The best kitchen appliance ever invented." Ice Bear simply nodded, eyes half closed. Ice Bear trusts the magic. The day went on with laughter and light-hearted moments. The toaster, now affectionately called Toasty by all three, sat quietly on the counter, occasionally popping out slices of perfectly golden toast. Sometimes they even found tiny notes tucked beneath the toaster, little messages like "Sweet dreams" or "Sleep tight, bears." Grizz swore he saw the toaster's glow brighten when Panda shared a joke, or when Ice Bear hummed quietly. It was as if Toasty wasn't just a toaster, but a gentle friend watching over them. That night, as the stars shone bright above their cave, the bears gathered once more. Grizz raised a slice of toast. To Toasty, our silent sleep partner. Panda smiled, raising his own. To the best bedtime buddy. Ice Bear held up his toast quietly. To peace. And with that, they bit into their toast, warmth spreading through them like a gentle hug. Outside, the forest settled deeper into the night, carrying with it the softest whispers of lullabies. The days that followed were filled with peaceful routines, each morning brighter than the last. Toasty sat proudly on the kitchen counter, its chrome gleaming softly under the cave's warm light. The bears had all grown fond of the little appliance that seemed to bring more than just perfectly toasted bread. It brought a quiet magic. One morning, Panda was the first to notice something odd. "Hey, guys," Panda called, peering closer at Toasty. "Did you see this?" Grizz ambled over, wiping a bit of honey from his chin. "See what?" Panda pointed to a small note tucked beneath the toaster's base. It was written in loopy, curling letters. "Thank you for the warmth." Grizz's eyes widened. "Wait, who's leaving notes now? Toasty?" Ice Bear appeared from the shadows, calmly holding a cup of tea. "Ice Bear suspects. Friendly haunt." Panda smirked. "Friendly haunt? Or ghost with a flair for stationery?" Grizz chuckled. "Either way, it's kind of cute." That day, the bears went about their business, but kept glancing at the toaster, half expecting it to pop out another note or a perfectly toasted snack. At lunch, Ice Bear prepared a simple meal, quietly humming a tune only he knew. Toasty sat beside him, quietly glowing as if soaking up the peaceful energy. Suddenly, Toasty emitted a soft ding, and out popped a slice of toast with a smiley face drawn in honey. Panda laughed. "Okay, that's officially adorable." Grizz grinned. "Toasty's got jokes now." As evening fell, the bears gathered in the cave's living space, basking in the golden glow of the fireplace. Toasty sat nearby, its gentle hum blending with the crackle of logs. Grizz stretched luxuriously. "I gotta say, this has been the coziest week ever. I'm starting to think we should keep Toasty forever." Panda nodded in agreement. "Yeah, it's like having a little magic buddy who also makes breakfast." Ice Bear smiled faintly. Ice Bear approves. That night, as the bears settled down to sleep, the cave was filled with a gentle warmth. Toasty's glow pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. But then, a whisper, soft as the rustle of leaves, floated through the air. "Thank you for believing." The bears stirred but did not wake. The warmth wrapped around them, comforting and calm. In their dreams, the bears saw a shining light dancing through the forest, guiding lost creatures home and wrapping the woods in peaceful slumber. When morning came, the bears awoke feeling lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Grizz blinked at the soft morning light. "Guys, I think we're finally getting the hang of this whole good sleep thing." Panda stretched and smiled. "And maybe it's all thanks to our toaster friend." Ice Bear nodded thoughtfully. Ice Bear trusts the magic of kindness. As days passed, the bears noticed that the little notes beneath Toasty became more frequent. Each one carried messages of gratitude, friendship, and warmth. One morning, Grizz found a note that simply said, "You're never alone." The bears looked at each other, a soft understanding passing between them. Maybe the mysterious magic of the forest and Toasty wasn't just about sleep. It was about connection. And in the quiet moments, with toast in paw and friendship all around, the bears found a peace deeper than in nap. The morning sun cast golden beams through the cave's windows, waking the bears with gentle warmth. Grizz stretched out with a big yawn, feeling unusually refreshed. Panda was already busy flipping through a book of forest legends, his eyes bright with the curiosity. Ice Bear sat quietly by the fire, quietly observing a small flicker of light that danced near Toasty's polished surface. "Looks like Toasty's glowing again," Grizz said, nodding toward the toaster. Panda grinned. "Maybe it's trying to tell us something." Ice Bear tilted his head and softly said, "Ice Bear thinks Toasty is more than just a toaster. It is a guardian." "A guardian of what?" Grizz asked, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Panda closed his book and looked out the window at the towering trees swaying in the morning breeze. "Maybe it's guarding the peace we found. The kind of peace that comes from friendship and kindness." The three bears shared a smile. Their days had been filled with laughter, quiet moments, and the kind of warmth that only true companionship could bring. Toasty was no longer just a strange appliance in their cave. It had become a symbol of the magic that held their little family together. As the afternoon sun dipped low, casting long shadows through the forest, the bears prepared for their evening ritual, sharing stories, snacks, and the gentle hum of Toasty's presence. Grizz held up a plate of toast, each slice decorated with little smiley faces made from honey and berries. "Toasty's signature touch," he said proudly. Panda chuckled. Who knew a toaster could be such an artist? Ice Bear nodded approvingly. Ice Bear respects art. They gathered around the fire, each taking a bite of the warm, sweet toast. The flavors melted on their tongues, filling them with a sense of comfort and joy. The fire crackled softly, and outside the forest settled into a quiet hush. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, the bears felt a gentle pull toward sleep, but this time it was welcome, a tender invitation to rest and dream. Grizz leaned back, his eyes half closed. "You know, this has been the best sleep we've ever had." Panda smiled softly. "And I think it's because we stopped fighting the night and started embracing it." Ice Bear's voice was calm and sure. Ice Bear agrees. Sleep is not just rest, it is renewal. The cave grew quiet, except for the soft breathing of 3 bears gently drifting off. Toasty's light pulsed softly one last time before fading into a peaceful glow. Outside, the forest whispered its lullaby, a melody woven from the rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, and the steady heartbeat of the earth itself. In that moment, everything was exactly as it should be. The bears were safe, warm, and surrounded by the gentle magic of friendship. And as the night wrapped around their cozy cave, one thing was certain. Sometimes the smallest things, like a mysterious toaster or a shared slice of toast, hold the greatest magic of all. Morning filtered into the cave with the smell of dew and toasted honey. Yes, Toasty had already produced 2 perfect slices before the bears were even fully awake. Grizz rolled onto his back. "Okay, this is officially the best way to wake up." "Better than a Panda alarm clock," Panda murmured, eyes still shut. "And I'm not even grumpy." Ice Bear detects highly optimized start to the day. Grizz sat up and stretched, cracking his neck. "All right, team. We've been living our best snack-filled, dream-rich lives thanks to Toasty. But don't you think it's time we found out where it actually came from?" Panda blinked. "We already know that. Tabe strapped it to a raccoon. Mystery solved. But where did she get it? Why is it magical? Why is it whispering in my dreams?" Panda raised a brow. "It whispered to you?" Grizz pointed toward the cave window. "Weirdly, yeah. Last night I dreamt of this glowing grove with trees shaped like spoons, and a voice told me to follow the scent of warmth." Ice Bear's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Dream guidance. Possibly credible. Grizz clapped his paws together. "That's it, guys. It's time we visit the Whispering Grove." Panda blinked. "That sounds like a sleepwalking hazard waiting to happen." "Or," Grizz grinned, "a cozy mystery adventure." By mid-morning, the 3 bears had packed light. Marshmallows, a flashlight, a blanket, mostly for Panda, and Toasty, gently wrapped in a tea towel and placed in a padded basket like the royal kitchenware it clearly was. As they trekked deeper into the woods, the trail grew quieter. The usual chirping birds and rustling branches faded, replaced by a soft hum, almost musical, floating through the trees. Grizz turned. "Okay. Anyone else feel like we're walking into a lullaby?" Ice Bear detects unusually calm frequencies. Panda shivered. "Okay, but why? We've hiked these woods before, and they never hummed lullabies." They crested a small hill, and there it was, the Whispering Grove. It didn't look like much at first glance. just a small circle of trees surrounding a mossy clearing. But the air shimmered faintly, like a dream wrapped around daylight. In the center of the grove stood a strange old stump with an imprint on top. It looked like something had once rested there. Something toaster-shaped. Grizz gasped. "This is it. This is Toasty's home." Panda's mouth dropped. "You're telling me our kitchen appliance is from here?" "Ice Bear detects. Perfect toaster fit." Grizz carefully placed Toasty on the stump. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a breeze picked up, not cold, not strong, but warm and drowsy. It swirled around the bears like a hug. Leaves shimmered, light danced, and the stump glowed faintly underneath Toasty. And then, just barely audible, came a whisper carried by the wind. "Thank you for bringing them back." Panda clutched his blanket tighter. "Did anyone else hear?" "I heard it," Grizz said softly, awe in his voice. "Ice Bear confirms dream energy surge." They stood there in silence, the wind rustling through the trees like a sleepy lullaby. Panda knelt beside the stump, brushing moss off the carved edges. "It's almost like this place was made for helping creatures sleep, like a rest sanctuary." Grizz nodded slowly. "Maybe Toasty was built here, or enchanted here." Ice Bear suspects both. The air in the whispering grove shifted. Not in a sudden gust, but in a gentle drift. Like the woods were stretching after a long nap. The faint golden shimmer surrounding Toasty intensified, reflecting off the bear's eyes. Grizz whispered, "You think maybe this place created Toasty?" Ice Bear believes. Toasty may not be the only one. Panda stepped back, wide-eyed. "Hold on. Are we talking about an enchanted forest of sleepy appliances?" "Or bedtime guardians," Grizz added. "Like a whole society of toasters, kettles, and plush robots, quietly protecting sleep." Panda nodded slowly. "Okay. That actually sounds kind of amazing." Suddenly, Toasty let out a soft chime, different from its usual ding. It was softer, almost musical. And with that, a low hum began to pulse through the stump beneath it. "It's like a drawer." Inside the compartment lay a folded piece of parchment, aged and delicate, along with a small, glowing pebble that pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. Panda carefully picked up the note and unrolled it. There were only 3 words, written in that same delicate curl they'd seen on the notes Toasty produced. "Protect the peace." Grizz whispered, "Is it talking to us?" Ice Bear picked up the glowing pebble. "Feels warm, comforting, not dangerous." Suddenly the wind picked up and the trees around them swayed in unison. The grove seemed to breathe. Then came a distant sound, like dozens of tiny chimes ringing softly from deep within the forest. Panda turned slowly. "What is that?" From the trees emerged shapes, soft, slow-moving, glowing. First came a kettle, floating, gently whistling with a pleasant tone. Its handle had ivy growing around it. Then a plush-looking old sleep mask drifted beside it, pulsing with a faint, dreamy glow. Behind them, more objects followed. An old lullaby music box, a pair of cloud-patterned slippers that somehow walked without feet, and a plush owl with eyes closed in eternal sleep. The bears stepped back. Grizz whispered, "Okay? I think we just stumbled into the sleep council." Panda nodded. "Yeah, either that or a dream garage sale." The floating objects circled Toasty on the stump. They didn't speak, but their presence said everything. This was a reunion. Toasty let out a soft hum that echoed through the grove. The music box spun once. The kettle glowed warmly. The plush owl let out a single hoo, which echoed like a lullaby through the trees. Then slowly, all the objects turned to the bears. Panda gulped. Are they judging us? Ice Bear stepped forward calmly. Ice Bear offers peaceful intentions. The plush owl blinked once, slowly. Grizz raised a paw. Hi. We're the bears from the cave. Toasty's been staying with us. Gave us toast. Helped us sleep. The slippers bounced slightly like they approved. The music box opened again, playing a short, soft tune that made Grizz instantly sleepy. Whoa, he mumbled. Okay, no offense, but your music is like powerfully cozy. The owl blinked again and nodded toward Toasty. Toasty emitted another gentle ding, and a new note slid out. Chosen caregivers. Panda tilted his head. Caregivers? Us? Grizz grinned. That means Toasty chose us. We're its nap partners. Ice Bear's eyes sparkled faintly. Ice Bear accepts the role. The Council of Cozy Objects slowly floated back into the forest, disappearing one by one like fireflies in reverse. The owl was the last to go, turning back one final time. It blinked and bowed its head. And just like that, the grove was silent once more. Grizz turned to the stump, still glowing softly beneath Toasty. Guys, I think we've been officially knighted by the Bedtime Brigade. Panda nodded. We're not just sleepy anymore. We're sleep keepers. Ice Bear smiled. Ice Bear will guard dreams. The walk back from the Whispering Grove was slower, quieter. The sun filtered through the trees in sleepy stripes, and every sound, bird song, rustling leaves, even their paw steps, felt softer than usual, as if the forest itself was still drowsy from the gathering. Grizz carried Toasty gently in its tea towel bundle like a precious loaf. So we're chosen caregivers now? That's a huge responsibility. Panda nodded, the glowing pebble in his hoodie pocket. I mean, what does that mean exactly? Like, do we make bedtime toast for the world now? Ice Bear is unsure, but dreams may need guarding. Grizz paused mid-step. Guys, what if some other forest has bad dreams, like evil dreams? Panda raised an eyebrow. Dream burglars? Yeah, like creatures who feed on restless minds, like the snoozlers. Panda frowned. You just made that up? I did. But admit it, you'd watch that movie. They all chuckled, the sound bouncing lightly between the trees. But just as the laughter faded, a cold breeze brushed past them, raising the fur on their arms. Panda stopped walking. Wait, did you feel that? The wind stirred again, this time from the opposite direction. Ice Bear turned slowly. Unnatural shift. Opposing flow. They stood still, listening. At first, nothing. Then, a soft shuffling. Faint but deliberate. Grizz whispered, That's not a bunny. From behind a tree, a shadow moved, brief and soundless. The pebble in Panda's pocket pulsed softly. He grabbed it instinctively. Guys? The three bears stood back to back, scanning the trees. The playful lullaby of the forest had fallen silent. Even the birds were holding their breath. Grizz spoke softly. I don't think we're alone. Another shuffle, this time louder. And then a sound like yawning, but not friendly or sleepy, low and echoing. Panda clutched his pebble tighter. What is that? From between two trees emerged a shape, long-limbed, tall and shadowy. Its body flickered like smoke under moonlight, and its eyes were wide and sleepless. Ice Bear stepped forward, calm and steady. Ice Bear advises retreat. The creature didn't chase. It just stood there watching them, twitching occasionally, like it hadn't blinked in years. Grizz whispered, Sleep burglar. It's a snoozler. I told you that wasn't real. Toasty's vibrating, Grizz hissed. Indeed, the bundle he held trembled softly in his arms, glowing faintly from inside the towel. Ice Bear suggests forest exit. Now. They turned and moved quickly but quietly. As they walked, the forest seemed to fold back in around them, the warmth returning, the wind softening. But Grizz still felt the tingling on his neck, the sense of being watched. Panda's pebble pulsed again, stronger, brighter, until they finally emerged into a familiar clearing not far from their cave. As soon as their paws touched the grass, the pulsing stopped. The air felt normal again. Grizz exhaled. Okay. I think we lost it. Panda nodded shakily. What was that thing? Ice Bear held the pebble. Dreamy to forest inbound. Grizz looked at Toasty, which had gone still. You think that's why we were chosen? Not just to make toast and nap, but to protect the dream space? Ice Bear suspects more threats will come. Panda dropped onto the couch as they entered the cave. Great. We're like Bedtime superheroes now. Grizz smirked. Dream Force, assemble. Toasty gave a faint, agreeable ding. The pebble rested quietly on the table, its glow now steady, no longer pulsing. Like it had calmed down. For now. But outside, far beyond their hilltop cave, the forest creaked. And somewhere in the whispering trees, something stayed very, very awake. That evening, the cave felt different. Not colder or scary, but quieter, as if it were listening. Grizz placed Toasty gently back on the kitchen counter, removing its tea towel wrapping like a proud parent returning a child from a sleepover. There you go, buddy, he whispered. Home, sweet home. Panda set the glowing pebble on the table. Its light had softened to a pulsing amber, warm and calm, like a heartbeat syncing with their own. Ice Bear stirred the pot of honey lavender tea he'd brewed. Ice Bear recommends grounding snacks. Panda blinked. Grounding snacks? Comfort food, post-trauma, rebalance energy. Grizz nodded. I'll take 3. They sat around their small wooden table, mugs in paw, slices of toast steaming gently in front of them. Panda clutched his blanket like a cape, while Grizz poked at his honey swirl with the end of a spoon. Do you guys think that thing in the forest is gone? Ice Bear thinks it is hiding, waiting. Panda frowned. That's comforting. But also, Grizz added, it didn't follow us, or attack. It just watched. Panda glanced toward Toasty, which was still and silent. Maybe it was more curious than dangerous, or maybe it was trying to figure out if we were worthy. Ice Bear looked at the pebble, now glowing faintly on the counter. Whatever it was, it fears light and warmth. Grizz stirred his tea slowly. Then we stay warm, stay kind, stay together. The cave walls flickered with shadows as the fireplace crackled gently. The 3 bears, wrapped in blankets and toast crumbs, sat quietly as dusk fell around them. Then Toasty gave a soft ding. Not a warning, not an alarm. Just a friendly, sleepy chime. A new note slid out onto the counter. The night is long, but you are not alone. Panda smiled. Okay, that's it. I'm officially keeping Toasty in the family forever. Grizz grinned. Our magical bread box guardian. Guardian of the crumb. Ice Bear approves of toaster deity. They all chuckled. But then the pebble pulsed again. Once, twice, then steadied. The glow stretched out, briefly illuminating a corner of the cave they hadn't paid attention to in weeks. A dusty old blanket fort made from old couch cushions, stacked haphazardly in the corner behind their bookshelf. Grizz narrowed his eyes. I wasn't glowing earlier. Panda squinted. Did something just move in there? Toasty let out another ding, this time a bit sharper. Ice Bear stood slowly. Ice Bear investigates. They crept over, Grizz in the lead, Toasty tucked like a lantern in his arms. They pushed aside the top blanket flap. Inside was a box, an old faded one, worn and taped and covered in doodles from years ago. Grizz whispered, "Wait a second, this was our bedtime box." Panda blinked. "Oh my gosh, I remember. We used to keep all our sleepy stuff in here. Warm socks, little flashlights, a glittery night jar." Ice Bear opened the lid. Inside was a dusty stuffed animal, a baby polar bear plush with a patch over one eye. Next to it, a tiny snow globe, cracked but still full of swirling sparkles. A cassette tape labeled Bedtime Beats Volatile 1, and beneath it all, a faded paper map of the forest. But this version of the forest had strange markings, symbols none of them recognized, spirals, stars. A cave icon marked with an X, and at the top corner, written in scratchy handwriting, "Follow the warm places, avoid the hollow cold." Grizz held the paper between his paws. This isn't just a bedtime box." Panda looked at Toasty. "This might be why Toasty came to us. We had the map all along." Ice Bear nodded. "We are not just chosen. We are remembered." As the night deepened, they lit small lanterns around the cave, each one casting a soft glow on a piece of their rediscovered past. And outside in the forest beyond, something stirred again, but slower this time, as if even the shadows were hesitating, as if they too were beginning to remember. Grizz leaned back into a pillow pile, map in one paw and toast in the other. "Toasty," he whispered, "looks like our dream journey isn't over." Toasty gave a single, sleepy chime. The pebble glowed faintly beside it. And as the stars blinked into place over their cozy cave, the bears, guardians of sleep, defenders of dream, settled in for the next chapter of their story. Together. The morning sun peeked through the trees, casting golden stripes across the cave floor. Panda was already awake, wrapped in his blanket like a burrito, cradling the glowing pebble in his paw, and staring at the forest map they'd rediscovered the night before. Grizz walked in yawning, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, burrito bro." "Morning, guardian of the toast realm," Panda mumbled, eyes still fixed on the map. "I've been up since sunrise. I can't stop thinking about this." Grizz plopped down next to him, Toasty under one arm and a slice of peanut butter toast in the other. "You know, for a sleep story, this thing's got a lot of plot." "I know, right?" Panda tapped a symbol on the corner of the map. "Look at the spiral. It's labeled the Murmuring Hollow. Kind of ominous, but also kind of nap-inducing." "Ice Bear detected bedtime danger levels at medium," said Ice Bear as he entered, already fully awake and somehow freshly brushed. Panda pointed again. "And this part. It says Cave of Echoing Thoughts. That sounds intense." Grizz bit into his toast. "Sounds like my brain at 3 a.m. Panda rolled his eyes. "Anyway, I think these places on the map are connected to what we saw in the grove, like checkpoints in a dream quest." Grizz leaned in. "So maybe if we follow them, we'll figure out where Toasty really came from, and what that sleep eater thing really was." Ice Bear supports bedtime recon. Panda sighed and looked around the cave. "But it's so cozy in here." Grizz stood up dramatically. "Sometimes cozy has to go on a journey, to bring even more cozy back." Ice Bear raised a paw. "Ice Bear will pack calming snacks." And just like that, the mission was on. They spent the rest of the morning preparing. Ice Bear packed honey granola bites and chamomile cubes. Panda gathered his eye mask, a sketchbook, and the pebble, which had now dimmed to a steady warmth, like a sleeping heart. Grizz, of course, packed Toasty, carefully wrapped in 2 towels and a potholder, just in case of spontaneous dinging. They left the cave by noon, following the path marked on the old paper map. It led them deeper into the woods than they'd ever gone before, through twisty roots, whispering moss, and sunbeams that seemed to blink like drowsy eyes. After a while, they came to a small clearing, where the path forked into 3 winding trails. Panda held up the map. Okay, this is where it gets confusing. Each path had a carved wooden sign. One read, "The Path of Gentle Whispers." The second, "The Snoozy Stones." The third, "Shortcut." But the word was scratched out, and beneath it, someone had written in crayon, "Not really." Grizz rubbed his chin. "Shortcut's out. Ice Bear votes Snoozy Stones." Panda pointed to the path of gentle whispers. "But this one says it leads to the Murmuring Hollow, and that was on the map." Grizz leaned in and shrugged. "All right, hollow it is. But if I start mumbling in my sleep, promise you'll wake me up." "I make no such promises," Panda said as they stepped onto the trail. The path wound through sleepy pines and thick underbrush. Every so often they heard the soft rustle of something moving just out of sight. But nothing threatening, only the kind of rustle you hear when leaves are gossiping or squirrels are fluffing their pillows. Panda held the glowing pebble out like a flashlight, watching its light shift as they moved. "It's getting warmer." Ice Bear raised a paw. "Approaching target zone." The trees opened slightly, and they found themselves before a shallow, shaded ravine. In the center, carved into the earth like a giant curled ear, was the entrance to the Murmuring Hollow. The whispers were faint, like dreams being shared just beneath consciousness. Panda blinked. "Whoa," Grizz grinned. "Well, time to murmur." The Murmuring Hollow wasn't like any cave they'd entered before. It didn't feel cold or damp. It felt hushed, like the whole place was built from the breath between 2 dreams. The walls curved gently inward, and faint silvery light shimmered along the stone, tracing soft spiral patterns that moved when you weren't looking directly at them. Grizz stepped in first, his paw landing in soft moss. "Okay, this place definitely has bedtime energy." Ice Bear followed silently. Echoes of thoughts, still active. Panda hesitated at the entrance, the pebble in his paw now glowing with a soft violet hue. "Do you guys hear that?" They all paused. The murmurs were faint but distinct now, not threatening, not clear. Just gentle voices like bedtime stories being whispered in a language only half remembered. "Ice Bear recommends we stay together." They moved deeper in. With every step, the cave shifted slightly. Not in a dizzying way, more like a dream that subtly changed locations when you blinked. First, the moss turned blue. Then the ceiling seemed higher. Then the whispers began to take shape. Grizz tilted his head. "Is that me?" A soft voice echoed from the wall beside him. "What if we never find the way back?" Panda jumped. "Wait. I just heard myself, too. What if I'm not enough for an adventure like this?" Ice Bear remained calm. Reflections of inner doubt, common in echo zones. Grizz tapped the wall. "So this place is just echoing our sleepy thoughts?" The wall whispered back. "Toasty likes Ice Bear better." Grizz blinked. "Okay, rude." Panda clutched his blanket. "So this hollow knows our insecurities? That's cozy and emotionally confronting." That's our exit strategy. As they entered the glowing tunnel, the murmurs around them began to soften. The doubts faded, replaced by faint lullabies and childhood stories. Then, Just as they were about to round the final bend, there was a click, and the tunnel behind them sealed shut. Panda gasped. "Wait, what?" A deeper voice, still soft, still distant, echoed through the hollow. "Who walks with warm hearts and curious minds?" Grizz looked at the others. "Should I answer that?" Ice Bear votes yes. Grizz stepped forward. "We're the bears of the cave. We brought Toasty back to the grove, and we toast responsibly." Silence. Then the voice returned, and gentler now. "You have awakened the paths, you have stirred the sleepers." Panda frowned. "Is that good or terrifying?" The voice grew warmer. "You are remembered. But others remember too. Not all softly." Ice Bear's grip on the pebble tightened. Suddenly, from the far end of the tunnel, a figure emerged, small, round, and oddly familiar. Panda blinked. "Wait, is that Tabes?" It looked like Tabes, sort of. But her ranger hat was shimmering, her boots didn't touch the ground, and her eyes were closed, as if she were sleepwalking. Grizz whispered, "I don't think that's the real Tabes." The figure drifted toward them, humming an off-key lullaby. Ice Bear held out a paw, standing protectively in front of his brothers. "Dream construct. Proceed with care." The sleepwalking Tabes stopped just a few feet away and tilted her head. Then, in a voice that wasn't quite hers, she said, "The cold ones wake. The veil thins. You must choose your next step wisely." Then poof. She vanished into a swirl of drowsy sparkles. Grizz blinked. Did we just get bedtime threatened? Ice Bear thinks, yes. They turned the final corner, and there, at the end of the tunnel, was an exit bathed in soft golden light. Toasty dinged quietly in Grizz's arms. Panda let out a slow breath. Okay, that was a lot. Grizz nodded. But I think we're getting close. As the bears stepped into the golden exit from the murmuring hollow, the world shifted again. But this time, it wasn't a tunnel or a forest path they found themselves in. It was a field. Soft, rolling hills stretched in every direction, blanketed with pale lavender and little flickering firefly-like lights drifting lazily above the flowers. The sky was a dreamy shade of periwinkle, as if dusk and dawn were hugging. Panda's eyes widened. Okay, this is officially stunning. Grizz sniffed the air. Smells like chamomile and cereal milk. Ice Bear detects trace elements of nostalgia. The field was silent but peaceful. Each step they took, the grass gently bowed beneath their paws like it was welcoming them. In the center of the field stood a strange object. Not a building. A giant pillow, or rather a huge dome-shaped cushion, white and fluffy with a soft, cloud-like texture. Surrounding it were dozens of smaller pillows arranged in a circle, as if the whole field were preparing for a nap party. Grizz grinned. Okay, I love it here. Panda approached the largest cushion. Do you think we're supposed to rest? Toasty dinged softly, still tucked safely under Grizz's arm. A new note slid out from its toast slot. Rest is not weakness. Rest is readiness. Ice Bear nodded. Permission to snooze granted. Without hesitation, Grizz belly flopped onto the biggest pillow. Ooh, it's like sleeping on a giant marshmallow that believes in me. Panda curled up near the edge of the circle, Pebble resting beside his face. I already feel drowsy. But Ice Bear didn't sit yet. He stood near the edge of the clearing, staring into the lavender fields beyond. What is it? Grizz asked, his cheeks smushed against the cushion. Ice Bear's voice was calm but low. Something watches. Grizz sat up immediately. From the horizon, something shimmered. A figure, faint, flickering, as if made of unfinished thoughts. It moved slowly, not walking, but drifting, its shape occasionally warping like fog in a dream. Grizz whispered, "That's not another sleep snack, is it?" "Nope," Panda muttered. Still lying down, but definitely awake now. "Not snack vibes." The glowing figure stopped just outside the circle of pillows. It had no face, just empty space where eyes should have been, and yet they all felt it watching. Toasty dinged again. A note popped out and fluttered to the ground. "Do not invite the cold." Panda's ears flattened. "Okay. We're officially in rules of the dream world territory now." The faceless figure drifted side to side as if pacing. But it didn't step into the pillow ring. Grizz leaned over to Ice Bear. "Do you think the pillows are like a protective circle?" Panda whispered, "Then maybe that means rest isn't just recovery. Maybe it's a shield." The figure hovered for a moment longer, then slowly turned, drifting back into the field of lavender, vanishing like smoke into the dream sky. Silence returned. Grizz exhaled slowly. "Okay. That was unsettling. Ice Bear suggests nap before next confrontation." Panda rolled back into his blanket burrito. "Agreed." The bears huddled together on a giant pillow, with Toasty nestled in the center like a campfire. The pebble glowed between them, matching their breathing, slow, steady, warm. Before long, their eyes grew heavy. And even in the strange, whispering lands beyond the hollow, the bears drifted into one of the deepest, most peaceful naps they'd had in days. But in their dreams, the voice returned. Not frightening, not urgent, just soft. "Remember the way. The final place nears." Grizz was the first to wake, not with a jolt, but with a gentle stir, like a cloud softly nudging him from the inside. He opened his eyes slowly. The sky above was still painted in soft pastel hues, but now tinged with a faint amber glow, like the beginning of a very calm sunset. Panda mumbled, 5 more minutes." Toasty gave a tiny ding, not loud, not urgent, but just enough to get Panda to roll over, blink once, and sit up, looking adorably confused. "Did we oversleep?" he yawned. Grizz sat up, stretching. "There's no clocks in the Dreamfields, bro. Time probably naps, too." Ice Bear, already awake and sipping from a steaming mug that absolutely hadn't existed before, handed Panda a cup. "Sleep tea. Appeared during REM." Panda sniffed it. "Smells like vanilla and sleepy thoughts." They sat for a moment in the glowing stillness, sipping tea, the giant pillow beneath them warm and breathing-like. Then they noticed it. The map, left beside the pebble while they napped, had changed. Grizz picked it up carefully. "Whoa, the lines! They're moving!" The once hand-drawn trails now shimmered faintly, forming into glowing threads of light. A new trail had appeared, winding away from the pillow field into a place marked only with 2 words. The Final Dream. Panda's eyes widened. "I thought this place was the dream." Ice Bear took the map. "Final Dream. Origin point?" Grizz stood. "Then that's where we're headed." Panda hesitated. "Guys, I'm a little nervous. What if the final dream is like scary? What if it's the opposite of all this softness?" Grizz looked at Toasty, still warm and peaceful. Then at the pebble, glowing stronger now. Then at his brothers. "We've made it through forests that whispered, caves that echoed our worries, fields full of sleepwalking pillows, and a shadow that looked like Tabes. We're not turning back now." Panda smiled slowly. "Okay, let's finish this nap venture." They packed up quietly, though Grizz insisted they say goodbye to the big pillow, patting it gently and whispering, "Thanks for the fluff." The new trail was narrower, more dreamlike. It twisted through patches of mist that smelled like bedtime stories and floated past trees whose leaves looked like little blankets. The pebble pulsed stronger the farther they went, like it knew they were close. Soon the ground beneath their paws turned soft and silver, almost like moonlight you could walk on. And at the end of the path was a doorway, not attached to a wall, not built into a mountain, just standing there in the open air, arched, ancient, and glowing softly with golden threads that danced like fireflies. Panda whispered, "That's gotta be it." Grizz nodded slowly. The final dream. Toasty let out the quietest ding of all. A note slid out. "Beyond lies memory, and meaning. Step only when ready." Ice Bear placed a paw on Grizz's shoulder. "We are ready." The bears stepped through the arch. The world went silent. Then light. Not blinding, not harsh, just endless softness. They weren't in a forest, or a cave, or a dreamfield. They were in a space that looked like themselves. Childhood drawings floated through the air like leaves. Memories of cozy nights in their caves shimmered across the sky like constellations. The scent of toasted marshmallows and honeyed tea filled the air. Panda saw an old picture book from when they were cubs. Grizz saw a small, fuzzy hoodie he hadn't worn in years. Ice Bear saw a snowflake suspended in midair, still perfectly formed from his very first winter nap. It wasn't scary. It was everything. A voice, gentle like the one they'd heard before, whispered around them. "You are the dream keepers now. Not just of your own peace, but of the restlessness that lives in others. Guard it, warm it, toast it." Toasty let out a chime that echoed like a lullaby. The pebble rose into the air, glowing brighter and brighter, then split softly into three. One piece floated to each of them, resting gently in their paws. Grizz looked at his fragment. "Like, dream keys?" Panda stared. "Or tokens of everything we've seen." Ice Bear whispered, "Anchors." And then, as quietly as they had arrived, the dreamscape began to dissolve, like fog lifting with morning. The stars blinked away. The sky turned soft gray. Curled together in their favorite couch pile, Toasty resting happily beside them, now glowing faintly once again. No notes this time, just warmth. Panda yawned. "Guys, was that all a dream?" Grizz smiled. "Maybe." Ice Bear opened one paw. Inside it, his pebble fragment still glowed. Not a dream, a beginning. When the bears opened their eyes, the world outside their cave was already bright with a soft morning sun. Birds chirped lazily. The trees swayed just a little more gently than usual. Grizz blinked. Did we just dream for 12 hours straight? Ice Bear detects deep rest mode achieved. Panda stretched slowly, his blanket still tangled around one ear. I feel like my soul took a nap. They sat up on the couch, blinking sleep out of their eyes. Everything inside the cave looked just as they left it. The toast crumbs on the table, the stack of bedtime books, the empty mugs with chamomile residue clinging to their rims. But also, everything felt a little more vibrant, more still, like the dream had followed them home and was now politely waiting in the corners. Toasty sat on the kitchen counter, its metal gleaming in the sunlight, unusually still. Grizz stood and patted over. "Morning, buddy." Toasty dinged quietly as if clearing its throat after a long rest. A note popped out, warm, perfectly crisp on the edges. "You've returned. But your world dreams, too." Panda walked over with a worried blink. "Wait, are we still dreaming?" Ice Bear shook his head. "No, but dream layer is thin, residual haze." Panda gulped. "What if our neighbors start floating?" What if Tabe starts speaking in rhyme? What if Nom Nom shows up with giant eyelids? Ice Bear approves of none of that. Grizz turned to the window. Outside, everything looked normal, except he squinted. Okay. Tell me I'm not seeing that. Panda joined him. Floating in the distance across the hill and just above a cluster of pine trees was what looked unmistakably like a sleepy cloud sheep. Fluffy, floating and translucent like a balloon made of marshmallow and moonlight. It drifted lazily across the sky, bleating once, "Bah," in a tone that sounded oddly like a yawn. Panda stepped back slowly. Okay, we definitely brought a bit of the dream home with us. Grizz rubbed his chin. What if this is happening everywhere? Like our dream space overlapped into real space. Toasty dinged again. It's temporary, but not meaningless. Ice Bear read over Panda's shoulder. So it fades. But we must act while it lasts. Grizz grabbed his scarf. Then we use the overlap. If dreams are leaking in, maybe we can find out what that shadow thing really was. Or help someone else sleep better. Panda tilted his head. Like sleep detectives? Ice Bear accepts the title. They packed quickly. Dream map, glowing fragments, Toasty wrapped in a scarf pouch, and a backup jar of sleepy peanut butter in case of emotional emergencies. Then they stepped outside, into the glowing morning. The world felt soft. Even the wind had a drowsy sound to it. As they padded down the forest path, more strange things came into view. Snails wearing miniature nightcaps, leaves that shimmered with dream dust, and a squirrel holding a teacup of lavender steam. Grizz nudged Panda. Should we be concerned? Honestly, Panda looked around. No, it's kind of perfect. As they crossed the stream near the edge of the woods, something caught Ice Bear's attention. He stopped. What is it? Grizz asked. Ice Bear pointed. Child, lost, on the sleep field. In a small clearing, nestled under a swirl of floating feathers in the half-dream clouds, lay a young girl, no older than 5, napping under a tree stump, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. She looked peaceful, but didn't stir when they approached. Panda whispered, She's stuck, isn't she? Grizz looked at the glowing fragments in his paw. Let's help her dream home. The girl's breathing was slow and steady, her chest rising and falling in rhythm with the floating feathers around her. One of the feathers lazily drifted down and brushed against her nose. She didn't even flinch. Grizz crouched beside her. She's deep under. Panda looked around. There's no grown-ups nearby. She might have wandered in here last night and just drifted. Ice Bear knelt next to the girl. Dreamlock. Gentle, but thick. Grizz unwrapped Toasty and gently set it down beside her. Okay, buddy. This is your moment. Toasty dinged softly. A note slipped out, more delicate than usual. She dreams of a rabbit who is afraid of being forgotten. Panda blinked. Whoa, how do we even respond to that? Ice Bear recommends comfort and memory-stabilizing snack. Grizz reached into his backpack and pulled out a marshmallow cracker sandwich. You think this'll work? Ice Bear nodded. Only if offered with kindness. Grizz placed the treat next to the girl's small hand, then reached down and ever so gently touched the rabbit plush. It was old and faded, one ear floppier than the other, but well-loved. The pebble fragments began to glow again, softly, in unison. And then, something remarkable happened. The space around them shimmered. The feathers paused in midair. The wind stopped rustling. The sunlight softened to a glow as if everything were holding its breath. And then, a rabbit-shaped light appeared. Not quite a hologram, not quite a ghost. Just a glowy, sleepy little version of the girl's stuffed animal. It looked at them with button-like eyes, blinked once, and whispered in a voice so small it might have been a breeze. She promised to never forget. But now, she's growing up. Panda placed a paw over his heart. Oh my gosh. Grizz crouched closer. But she hasn't forgotten. She brought you with her. She held you in her sleep. The light rabbit blinked again. Toasty dinged. A final note slipped out. Hold her hand. Reminder. Without hesitation, Ice Bear gently guided the girl's hand to touch the rabbit plush. Her fingers curled around its soft fabric. And then, her eyebrows twitched. Her lips moved. She whispered, Bun Bun. Grizz gasped. That's it. The dream rabbit light pulsed softly, then dissolved into a swirl of glitter that sank back into the plush's seams like a memory returning home. The feathers slowly drifted to the ground. The girl stirred. Her eyes blinked open, sleepy, unfocused, and then locked onto the three bears. She didn't scream. She smiled. You look like the teddy in my dream, she murmured to Grizz. Panda quietly melted. Grizz chuckled. That's me, protector of the nap realm. Ice Bear offered her the sandwich. Re-entry snack. She took it with both hands and nibbled. Moments later, a distant voice called, Ellie! Ellie! From the trees, a woman appeared, her face full of panic, until she saw her daughter munching happily between three very fluffy guardians. Oh my goodness, Ellie! The girl turned. Mommy, the bears saved me. The woman scooped her up, blinking in disbelief at her surroundings. Panda waved shyly. Morning. Grizz grinned. She's safe and well-fed. Ice Bear nodded. No need to fear, Dream Sheep. The mother, still too stunned to reply, just mouthed, Thank you, and carried Ellie back toward the trail. Toasty gave one final proud ding. They watched until the forest swallowed the pair up again, the last trace of dream dust slowly fading with the breeze. Grizz exhaled. We actually helped someone. For real. Ice Bear held up his pebble. Energy shift detected. Final ripple approaches. Grizz turned toward the sky, where the clouds once held sleepy sheep. Now there were only echoes. The dream world was fading, but something still waited. One last place. The lavender fields had faded. The floating pillows were gone. Even the drowsy whispers in the wind had settled into a soft, peaceful silence. The bears stood quietly at the edge of the forest, the gentle sunlight warming their fur. Grizz looked at his brothers. Feel like the dream saying goodbye. Panda rubbed his eyes. Yeah, but I don't feel sad. Ice Bear nodded. Dreams are not just places. They are moments. They live inside. Grizz smiled softly. Like a cozy blanket you can wrap around yourself any time. Suddenly, Toasty let out a soft, musical ding, different from before. This time, it was a gentle melody that wrapped around their hearts. A small note slid out and fluttered between them. Thank you for keeping the dreams safe. The night is yours. Panda looked at the glowing pebble fragments. They pulsed softly in his paw, steady, calm, like a heartbeat. Ice Bear tucked his fragment safely into his scarf. Grizz looked up at the sky, now a canvas of warm twilight colors. Think the dream world's okay now? Grizz asked. Sleep restored, Panda replied, a smile tugging at his lips. And toast is always ready, Grizz added with a wink. The bears turned back toward their cave. As they walked, the world felt a little cozier, a little softer. The trees seemed to hum lullabies. The wind whispered good night. Inside the cave, their favorite couch waited. Toasty nestled on the armrest, glowing faintly. Grizz flopped down with a contented sigh. Panda wrapped his blanket around himself and yawned. Ice Bear settled with a calm, peaceful expression. The pebble glowed one last time, then dimmed to a gentle warmth. Grizz grinned. Think we earned this nap? Panda nodded. Best nap ever. Ice Bear quietly added, Dreams will wait. The three bears closed their eyes. And as they drifted off, the quiet night outside the cave wrapped around them like the softest blanket. A night where the bears could finally sleep. The world outside the cave had shifted while the bears slept. The dream fields had quietly faded, and the skies had softened to hues of honey and cotton. Morning had arrived, not loudly, but with the hush of a well-told secret. Inside the cave, all was still. 3 furry forms lay curled in a tangle of blankets, limbs overlapping, snouts nestled close, rising and falling gently with every sleepy breath. Toasty, their ever-dutiful toaster companion, sat quietly on the windowsill, its chrome surface catching the first golden light. A faint, musical ding hummed from within it, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat remembering a lullaby. Grizz was the first to stir. He blinked slowly, eyes gummy from a nap that felt like it had lasted a lifetime in a blink all at once. Morning already, he mumbled, voice still thick with sleep. Panda groaned from beneath the pile. No, don't say that word yet. It's still bedtime in Australia. Ice Bear prefers denial, came a muffled voice from somewhere deep in the blankets. Grizz sat up slowly and looked around. The cave looked normal again. Soft shadows, favorite mug still on the table. Toasty warm and shiny in the light. But it felt different. Calmer. As if something big had happened, and the world was holding its breath to appreciate it. He stretched, every vertebra cracking like applause. I had the weirdest dream. Panda peeked out from his blanket cocoon. We were flying on cloud sheep and talking to Toast. Or was that real? Grizz rubbed his face. Okay. Now I'm not even sure anymore. Ice Bear emerged slowly, brushing a feather from his ear. Ice Bear confirms. Some dreams leave footprints. They all sat for a moment, staring at the morning light filtering through the cave window. Outside, everything looked ordinary, but somehow not. There was a softness to it. Like the dream world hadn't fully left, but simply tiptoed into the corners of real life and made itself at home. Grizz smiled quietly. I think the dream followed us back. They slowly migrated from the couch to their favorite morning spots, like sleepy tumbleweeds. Panda made his way to the kitchen counter with his eyes barely open. Ice Bear glided across the floor like a silent tea-ghost. Grizz bounced, well, more like stumble, with a little too much leftover dream energy. Toasty greeted them with a gentle ding and served up 3 perfectly golden slices of dream toast, each one slightly warm, gently glowing, and buttered with what could only be described as a feeling. Comfort, safety, pancake-flavored nostalgia. Panda took a bite and froze. Did this toast just remind me of Grandma's hugs? Ice Bear chewed slowly, nodding. Tastes like blanket fort. Grizz licked a bit of dream butter off his paw. Mine tastes like winning a game of tag on a warm summer night. This toaster is going to ruin normal food forever. After breakfast, the bears ventured outside. The air felt pillowy. A breeze whispered through the trees like a lullaby still humming itself. And down the hill, floating ever so slightly above the lavender grass, drifted a familiar sight. A sleepy cloud sheep. It hovered, slow and drowsy, trailing sparkles in the air behind it, like a passing yawn. It looked back at them once, blinked its marshmallowy eyes, and drifted higher into the sunrise. Panda tilted his head. Do you think it came back just to say goodbye? Or, Grizz said softly, maybe to remind us that dreams aren't gone. They just change forms. Ice Bear reached into his scarf pocket and pulled out the tiny pebble fragment. The one that had glowed during their journey. Now it was smooth, cool, and quiet. No light. No glow. But still, important. He placed it gently on the windowsill next to Toasty. The bears sat in silence for a few moments, letting the breeze tousle their fur. No big decisions, no dream portals, no puzzles, just peace. Panda sighed. "We're going to talk about this night forever, aren't we?" Grizz chuckled. "Dude, I'm going to tell this story to every cloud I see. Ice Bear will turn it into bedtime haiku." Later that morning, back inside the cave, the bears found themselves lounging lazily. No plans, no chores, just a slow, satisfying stillness. Grizz sat at the window, gazing out at the trees with a soft smile, like he could still hear the giggle of a distant dream echoing in the leaves. "I think that was the best non-sleep I've ever had." Panda was wrapped burrito-style in his blanket again, phone in paw, scrolling through photos that absolutely hadn't existed the day before. One caught his eye, the three of them floating on a giant pillow, cloud sheep overhead, and Toasty mid-hover. The photo flickered gently, like it couldn't decide if it was real. "I mean, we have proof, right?" he said, tilting the screen toward the others. Ice Bear looked over, expression unreadable, then nodded. "Magic happens quietly. Doesn't always ask to be believed." Grizz leaned his head back and closed his eyes. "I just love how safe it felt. Like nothing could go wrong." "Toasty helped," Panda said, lifting his toast slice like a glass. "Here's to our little bread buddy." Toasty gave the faintest sparkle in reply. They clinked their toast slices together like mugs of tea. Grizz reached over and pulled Panda into a lazy bear hug, then flopped dramatically onto Ice Bear's lap. "What if we made this a tradition? Like every few weeks, big nap night. We just let the dreams take us somewhere wild." Panda muffled a laugh. "I'd be down, as long as I don't have to climb any more staircases made of pillows." Ice Bear adjusted his position, letting Grizz stay draped over him like a weighted blanket. "Ice Bear recommends next dream world include pizza." "Noted," Grizz said, eyes still closed. "Pizza clouds, nacho waterfalls, dream goals." Outside, a soft chime rang through the wind, faint and almost unnoticeable. A hush settled in the cave, not heavy, just warm. Panda blinked slowly. "You guys ever feel like maybe we didn't come back alone? Like the dream is still hanging out with us somehow?" Ice Bear didn't answer right away. He simply reached into the couch cushions and pulled out a small pillow that looked suspiciously like the ones from the Dreamfield. It smelled faintly of lavender and starlight. He handed it to Panda. Panda hugged it to his chest with the quiet reverence of someone who'd just been handed a memory. "Yep," Grizz murmured sleepily. "Definitely brought a piece back." The rest of the morning unfolded like a soft lullaby in reverse, slow, gentle, full of yawns and quiet smiles. Grizz had returned to the couch with his arms behind his head, staring at the ceiling like he could still see stars blinking in a dream sky. "You ever think maybe sleep isn't just for recharging? Like, what if it's where we remember who we really are?" Panda, now curled at the other end of the couch with the dream pillow tucked under his chin, hummed thoughtfully. "You mean like how that weird sheep said we were keepers of calm? That wasn't just dream talk?" Ice Bear poured himself more honey tea. "Ice Bear believes sleep is more than rest. It's where hearts breathe." Grizz grinned at that. "Man, that's deep. We should stitch that on a throw pillow." "Already did," Panda mumbled, gesturing sleepily to the corner where Ice Bear had embroidered a pillow during one of his quiet hobby nights. In elegant thread it read, "Let your heart breathe." They all laughed. Not loudly, just the kind that bubbles up and fades naturally, like the fizz of soda or the flutter of leaves. The sun was fully up now, and yet the bears hadn't felt even a twinge of the usual get-up-and-go urgency. Because today wasn't about doing. It was about being. Grizz sat up slowly. You know what I think? I think the dream didn't leave because it wasn't just a dream. It was a reminder that the world still has magic, even when you're awake. Panda opened one eye. That's cheesy. Deliciously cheesy, Grizz countered. Toasty would approve, Ice Bear added. Toasty gave a soft ding, and a single slice of toast popped up, shaped like a tiny bear face. Grizz burst out laughing. Okay, that's it. We're officially living in a cartoon. Panda lifted the toast solemnly. I accept this offering of carbs and chaos. They all took a bite. The toast tasted like morning sunlight, and the hug of a friend who knows when not to say anything at all. The kind of toast you only get after a night that changes something inside you. A long silence followed. Not awkward, just full. Full of thoughts and leftover dreams and the echo of glowing fields. Outside, the sleepy cloud sheep was barely a dot in the sky now, but a faint trail of sparkles lingered behind it, like a breadcrumb trail back to wherever dreams begin. I hope we go back someday, Panda said softly. Grizz leaned into the couch cushions. I think we will, when we need to. Ice Bear folded his paws across his lap. Ice Bear is always ready. The day passed like a sigh in slow motion. No errands, no noise. Just the soft shuffle of paws, the distant hum of trees swaying outside, and the occasional sleepy murmur from one bear to another. Later, as golden light stretched across the cave floor and Toasty powered down for a nap of its own, the bears found themselves once again piled together on the couch. No plan, no purpose, just comfort. Grizz laid across the top like a fuzzy scarf. Panda was squished in the middle, half asleep and fully content. Ice Bear was at the base, unmoving, like a serene foundation made of snow and calm. Panda whispered into the fading light. You think we'll remember it tomorrow, all of it? Grizz smiled with his eyes closed. Even if we don't, I think it'll remember us. Ice Bear agrees. Outside, the last sparkles from the floating sheep's trail began to fade. But just before they vanished completely, a faint shimmer curled downward like a falling leaf, drifting through the window, quiet as a whisper, and came to rest on the pebble fragment beside Toasty. It glowed. Just once, like a wink. A promise. And then it was still. Grizz murmured, barely audible now. Guess the night's not gone. It just moved inside us. Panda yawned. Yeah. Like a dream you carry, even when you're awake. Pause. Then Ice Bear, soft as sleep itself, said, Ice Bear says, let's keep it safe. Toasty gave one final ding. The glow dimmed. And in the hush of a cozy cave, wrapped in blankets and quiet hearts, the bears drifted, not away, but deeper, into that safe, glowing space between waking and sleep, where dreams don't end. They simply wait. As the bears return to rest, so can you. Let their calm remind you. The softest dreams live inside us, always waiting. Good night, dreamer. You're safe here.